take a closer look at the language used by the leaders in this campaign. Neil James of the Plain English Foundation joins me now. Neil James, thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
Let's start with a basic question first. What's the main difference between the language used by both candidates?
Well, first of all, what they have in common is that they've both used a highly scripted language. They've both been on message, but the difference has been, I suppose, the positive or negative side of the message. With Julia Gillard, we've had a lot of cliches centred around moving forward in the with the Australian people in the national interest. And with Tony Abbott, it's been a kind of an attack language: end, stop, waste, debt, spending, addiction, which reflects their campaigns, but in both cases a very cliched sort of a language, and I think we've got some examples of that we could have a look at now.
Okay.
This election, I believe, presents Australians with a very clear choice. This election is about the choice as to whether we move Australia forward or go back.
Our policies are clear, and as I keep saying, if you elect us, you know what you'll get. We'll end the waste, we'll pay back the debt, we'll stop the big new taxes, and we'll stop the votes.
Neil James, why do they speak like that? It's almost like they're speaking in headline grabs, 3 words, probably not too many there to confuse people. Is that the whole idea? It
is the whole idea, and that's the point. It's a technique they pick up from advertising, which is that even if people are annoyed by it, the message stays in the mind. Keep it really simple. It can fit into the sound grabs and the evening news. The problem is that we all knew it was a slogan. We all knew that it wasn't necessarily the real people who were underneath those that sort of poll-driven market research.
Okay, in the first week of the campaign, we had the Prime Minister seeing what happened in the polls, and then she came out after that, we've spoken about it quite a bit this morning, and said she was going to be the real Julia. Did that have an effect on the way she spoke, the way she addressed the country?
Look, it did. It's an extraordinary admission, really, if you think about it, partway through a major campaign, that a leader would admit that he or she hasn't really revealed their true self sufficiently, and that they were going to unleash the real person. So there was a concerted effort in the launch speech later on, and also in the community forums, to try and reveal the real person who was underneath. She did a lot of believing to stress who she was underneath and what her values, what she stood for was. So the word "I believe" tended to come out an awful lot in the latter part of the campaign, and I think we have an example of that from the campaign launch itself.
Now, I've been talking about jobs all of this election campaign because I believe in work. I believe in people having the benefits and dignity of work. I believed that all of my life. I believed it when we faced the global financial crisis in 2008. I believe it now, and I believe it for the future.
That's Julia Gillard there early on in the campaign. Which leader do you think has the more natural style?
Well, they both have a natural style underneath, but the depressing thing was that it took so long for us to get down to that natural style. It was so buried for so much of the campaign in all of this slogan of moving forward and having conversations with the Australian people and ending the boats and stopping the debt and so on. So they both have a natural style underneath. In Tony Abbott's case, it's the use of idiom. He uses, Kevin Rudd used to use some cliches like fair shake of the sauce bottle. Tony Abbott was a bit prone to that, but I think they were a more natural part of his language. So we had spending like drunken sailors, for example. We had the magic wand or the magic bullet that came out in the last community forum, the sizzle and sausage, letting the cat out of the bag. And I think we have a couple of examples to show his use of that kind of idiom to try and be more the natural Tony Abbott.
And we think that a range of technologies is better than putting all your eggs in the fibre basket. That this government is throwing the kitchen sink at us.
Brilliant. So in terms of actually getting the message across to voters, what do they actually like to see in the way their leaders address them?
Well, I think they like to see the real person underneath. I mean, it's certainly true that a leader does need to have the campaign messages, and that's got to be connected to the policies that they're putting across. But people like to get a sense of who Tony Abbott is as Tony Abbott, who Julia Gillard is as Julia Gillard. And the real mistake of this campaign, we've dubbed it on the whole the campaign of the ventriloquist dummies, because it's been too dominated by that party research and the focus group research. And the people have been getting turned off because it hasn't hasn't been a natural enough show from either side.
Okay, Neil James of the Plain English Foundation, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.